Well, good evening, and thanks for coming to the live stream of Traveling on Everyday Spend. Want to first thank everybody that has been watching our videos and liking and subscribing, and any comments. It really does us a lot of good to see that. We want to make sure that we're providing you the content that's going to be beneficial to you and your family. So just want to thank you for that. And I always talk about that I want to be um, conscious of you and your time. So we will go ahead and get started with the show. So the agenda for tonight is we're going to look at some credit card offers that are ending soon. We're going to also take a look at the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card that's just kind of come out with some at least enough information for us to start making some determinations of where this card may fall in. And I do have some thoughts on that. We're also going to look at some legislation related to the U.S. government related to attempting to eliminate junk fees as it relates to travel. That should be pretty interesting. And then lastly, we're going to look at look at a whole picture of the Marriott Bonvoy program. We've got they have 6 credit cards. 4 of them are at historic highs, and there's a lot of things to consider in regards to that. And I want to be able to provide you all of the information that you need so that you can make the most educated decision for yourself. So if that sounds good to you, let's get started. So as far as the cards that are ending coming up here, we're going to be looking at March 11th for these 3 cards. And the first one is the Southwest Companion Pass. On all 3 of the personal credit cards, they are providing you with Companion Pass from ending, starting as soon as you've met the threshold of the 4K spend in 3 months. And then you'll have Companion Pass through February 28th of next year. Many people already know about what the Southwest Companion Pass, but if you don't know anything about it, it is an excellent program. It's not a one-time Companion Pass that you only get one-time use. You have unlimited use to where when you go on travel on Southwest and bring a person with you, that person essentially is getting buy one, get one free. The only thing that you have to pay for is taxes, which might be $11 or $12 or maybe a little bit more at the most. But it is an excellent option that can really make your points and your dollars stretch, because this applies to whether you are paying with points or whether you are paying with cash. So it is, and you do designate who the person is, but you do have the opportunity to change that person a couple times during the term of that year. So if you have ever had any interest in it, this has been the easiest time to be able to get the Southwest Companion Pass. Normally, what you've had to do is to get one personal card and one business card to generate enough points to get you the Companion Pass. Now you don't have to do that, and you can be able to do it with any of the 3 cards that they have. They have the Plus, which is $69 annual fee, which I would consider for the beginner or the infrequent user of Southwest. Then you have the Premier at $99, where if you're already or intending being a regular user of Southwest, that's a good card. Or the $149 Priority is a card that would be more for the loyalist, as I would say. Now, we did go into more of a deeper look of the Southwest cards in our last live stream last week. So you can definitely, I put chapters to that live stream. So if you'd like to go back and take a look at that and get some more detailed information to help you make your decision, definitely would be a good thing to look at. The second card is the Capital One Venture X business card with March 11th as its expiration date. And that one as well, 150,000 points. You can get a max of 300,000 points, but 150,000 points for $20,000 worth of spend in the first 3 months, and then another tranche of 150,000 points for $100,000 in the first 6 months. Now, if you've got a business that is generating that kind of spend that you do, congratulations, you're killing it. I don't. That's a card that I can never get to the spend of. So I wouldn't be discouraged. If you've got to spend, great, enjoy it. But keep in mind that the Venture X business card is essentially the same as the personal Venture X. So all of the same benefits, the $300 travel credit, the 10,000 point bonus at the end of on your anniversary year to get you to that $400 worth of credit, essentially paying you to have the credit card. Same travel benefits, same lounge access, same multipliers. So if that card is not for the spend for you, then you can look at focusing more on the personal credit card and take your shot there. So but I wanted to bring that up because that is a historic, and I won't say historic, but it's a huge number for a business card. The third card we'll look at is the Capital One Spark 2% cash business card. Same March 11th end date. And for that card, if you're more of a cashback person, you have a chance at up to $3,000, $1,500 on the first $20,000 spend in the first 3 months. And then if you can get to $100K of spend in that 6 months, then you can access the next $1,500. I know both of those cards are not necessarily ones that everybody's going to be looking at, but I want to make sure to provide you the information just in case, because I don't want anybody to miss it if it is something that they could look at. The other item I do want to mention is not one that's ending, but I came across it, and it is quite a gigantic number. The American Express Business Platinum. There is a direct link for $15,000 worth of spend in the first 3 months to get 250,000 points. That is astonishing of a number. Now, I did see this on a website blog for Frequent Miler. They do an excellent job on that website, providing excellent information, and I want to definitely give credit to them on that. I see the link on their site. I don't have any links on my site at this point. So if you do have any interest in the Business Platinum and you are prepared for that $15,000 worth of spend, that is an outstanding number for the Business Platinum. Then I would encourage you to take a look at it. It does have lifetime language. So if you've had one before, you very well may not get the bonus, but there seems to may have been a couple of times where people still did get it. So it doesn't hurt to try. If you do, American Express will notify you during the application process by pop-up jail to say that you are not going to be able to get that intro bonus and ask you if you want to even continue applying. So even if you apply and you're not able to get it, there is no harm, no foul. But if it's something you're interested in, definitely take a look at it. Topic 2, the Wells Fargo autograph journey. Now, the main thing that you're going to see with this card is it's kind of starts with a modeling after the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is a card I have. And it does have some pluses to look at, but we need to kind of look at a few things. So the intro, 60,000 points for $4,000 worth of spend in the first 3 months is about a normal kind of thing for whether it would be for the Chase Sapphire Preferred or even maybe the Citi Premier card at $95. So both of them kind of around that number and that kind of spend. They provide a $50 hotel credit, 5x on hotels, 4x on airlines, 3x on other travel and dining, and 1x on everything else. Couple of things to note is we don't necessarily know what the other travel is yet. Chase has a very widespread for what their other travel consists of. And so we don't know those specifics on this card. It's probably going to be very similar to the Chase Sapphire Preferred and have a pretty wide ranging space for travel. But that's something you would definitely want to know about first. The 4x and the 5x on airlines as multipliers are very good. And we'll touch on a couple of things with that in a bit. The transfer partners that they've initially started out with is Aer Lingus, Air France KLM, Air France KLM, which is basically one unified group. Avianca, British Airways, Iberia, and then one hotel, which is Choice. And as far as the transfer ratio, it's 1-to-1 on all of the airlines and 2-to-1 on Choice, which is very good because American Express also has the Choice hotels, but they are just at 1-to-1. So it is definitely something that is a plus for it. As far as thoughts, the positives are, one, there are no caps on these multipliers of 5x, 4x, and 3x. That is a very good start with the card. Second, there's no portals. Now, if you've dealt with any credit cards or have been looking at any, you've seen that Chase, especially Chase and Capital One, are really, and Citi is just really kind of ramping up theirs as well, are really trying to get you to you do the travel through their portal to be able to get the points, to be able to get the multipliers. For Wells Fargo, they are not requiring it. As long as you go through directly with a hotel or with an airline, you're going to get those points calculated based upon the spend on the credit card. That is very good if you don't like doing portals. The multipliers, as I mentioned, are very good at 5x, 4x, and 3x. The 3x is pretty common for the dining aspect. The 4x for the airlines and the 5x are really more of the issues where you don't have to go through a portal. You get to, and because you don't have to go through the portal, you pretty much are going to be able to get your loyalty points that you would normally end up doing, which you sometimes lose when you go through the portals because you're not able to assign it to, they don't give you an option to put your membership number and such. So something to keep in mind. That's definitely a benefit for it. And of course, the bonus, anytime you can get a bonus, it's always going to be good. It's always going to pay for the first year. And so this is a good option, of course. The negatives are the transfer partners. A lot of people were hoping, myself included, was that we were going to see essentially a mirroring of the transfer partners that we see on the Wells Fargo Built credit card, which has made it a very great, an excellent card for transfer partners, including American Airlines, which they are the only only credit card that has American as a transfer partner. And keep in mind, American Airlines has co-branded cards with Citibank as well as Barclays, and they don't, and Citi doesn't even get to use them as a transfer partner. They only actually had a temporary relationship with them as a transfer partner. I think it was last year, but only for a few months. And we were all hoping that we would see that would kind of be the kickoff of a new transfer partner relationship. Never came to pass, but Built came out of nowhere with American. And as far as Hyatt, Chase is the only one to that point that had Hyatt as a transfer partner. And that being that exclusivity is one of the reasons why Chase points are valued so high. But now Built has that. So we don't see those right now. And when we look at Aer Lingus, British Airways, and Iberia, they all use Avios. So whether you have an Avios that you earn through Aer Lingus or an Avios that you earn through British Airways or Iberia, it's the same. You can move it around. So as long as you have one of them as a transfer partner, you essentially have all three because they use the same Avios. Air France KLM is a good transfer partner. They are with essentially, I think, all of the other major card of American Express, Citi, and Capital One. Avianca is a great utility airline. They have a lot of sweet spots, not the easiest to find, but they are available. And then British Airways, as I mentioned, and then Iberia. And as I mentioned, the Choice Hotels at a 2-to-1 is a very good option. If you saw my video on Citi, I talked about the fact that Choice Hotels is a bit of a surprising transfer partner as far as the quality of them, especially if you're abroad in Japan. I think you mentioned Europe. Not that they're bad here, but it's more of a bargain type of situation here. There are actually some very good hotels in the other different parts of the world. And a 2-to-1 option is a pretty good look. But you're still essentially adding up to having 1, 2, 3 airlines in one hotel. And that's not good. That's not good enough. They are saying that they're going to expand throughout the year, and we don't know what that's going to provide us. But as far as being able to get this credit card, it'll be available online March 20th. It's a little bit earlier if you have a Wells Fargo near you and you want to go in branch, but online and nationwide, it's going to be March 20th. And then the transfer partners will activate on April 4th. As far as my decision or my thought pattern on this, it's a good card. Left a lot to be desired, but 60,000 points is still 60,000 points for it. And you will be able to take the autograph that already exists. I think it's the no fee one, where transfer partners, you'll be able to take, you'll be able to use them for transfer partners as well as the active cash for Wells Fargo, and be able to transfer them over to be able to use them. So that is helpful. But for me, we're looking at we look at Chase 524, and we basically look at a Capital One 624. If you're anywhere close to either getting under 524, or if you're going to be potentially putting yourself out of the 524 conversation, I'm not getting that card. It's just not worth it right now. It may get there if they get the transfer partners in order, but I can't take a spot for that at this point. Now, if you've totally blown it out of the way and you're nowhere close to 524 anytime in the near future, then it may be worth taking a look at. But those are my opinions. So I'm not going to be looking at this card anytime soon, but it does have a place for some people. So let me know in the comments of what your thoughts are regarding it. And then let's look at topic 3, the elimination of junk fees. These are things that a lot of us have been very aggravated and bothered by. So basically what happened? So the Consumer Financial Protection Board, the CFPB, basically addressed a loophole that had been kind of out there for a while related to late fees. Because it was basically, companies could raise the late fees based on inflation and such. And so those numbers have gotten all the way up to over $30 in some cases. Well, this loophole closing that they're doing is going to reduce limit the late fee to $8. And the estimates that they're providing us is saying that they're going to save customers more than $10 billion per year. And the average will be $220 annually for more than 45 million Americans. And the change will go into effect later this year. Obviously all sounds good. Anything that can limit the amount of paying that we all have to do, whether it's a mistake that we didn't make the payment on time, or if we just were in a situation where we couldn't make the payment, those $30+ hits can do a lot of damage. So it's helpful for that. Now, as far as what's next, this is all kind of part of a overall plan by the current president related to the 2023 Junk-Free Protection Act. And in that act, they're talking about for hotels to ban resort fees, airlines to require that the full price, inclusive of fees, are shown during your booking process. And also for airlines to prohibit the charging of to families that want to sit together. Now, a couple of notes on all 3 of those. The resort fees obviously have been something that has stuck in a lot of people's craw for ever since they've started them. And it's become so widespread for resort fees at places where it's not really even a resort, it's just a hotel, but it's a revenue generator for them, where you can be at some places, especially in Vegas, and be paying more in the resort fee than the actual room cost. It's astonishing. Airlines, everybody wants to have all of their information up front. It's very simple. It makes sense that when you book an airline, that you know what that amount is up front before you do the booking, and not get surprised that there was some additional fee or something, other tax that's not accounted for. So that sounds like a great idea. And then as far as the charging of prohibiting the charging of families that want to sit together, sounds like a good thought. There's obviously been different restrictions or problems because not all seats are created equal. Not all fare levels are created equal. So, but I know that a lot of airlines have been, not a lot, I'll say a few airlines have talked about not doing that or trying to work their way of not doing it, from their trade association that speaks about it. So all of those sound good. But what's the question that I would have? Well, who are the winners and losers? Are the winners the consumers? Are the losers the transportation industry? Well, I don't think there's really going to be much winners on this. All of these sound very good. But one thing I think we've all learned in our lifetime is that when you're dealing with a for profit company that is, in most of these cases, or all of these cases, are answering to shareholders, they have lobbyists to be ahead of the game from in the government, with Congress, to make sure of trying to advocate for themselves, but also to get enough information to get their timing down right. So between those things and the fact that these fees, yes, you could eliminate the resort fee. Yes, you could deal with other fees, but let's just take the resort fee. The resort fee has been such a moneymaker. Does any of us think that that for-profit company is not going to recoup that money? No company is going to lose that millions of dollars that they're receiving from resort fees. What is more than likely what we're going to see is that we're going to see where the room prices just start inching up a little bit in anticipation of the elimination of the resort fees. And for companies and hotel organizations that are ahead of the game, by the time that resort fee kicks in, they probably would have already moved that dollar amount up enough to warrant where when they drop that resort fee, they didn't really lose much money or lose any. Companies will make a decision upon how much they're willing to lose with the removal of the resort fee, for example. And if they make, I'll make up a number, let's say they make $10 million a quarter or a year on their resort fees, they will basically start looking at where else can they end up picking up cost, to generate, where can they generate more revenue at to kind of soften the blow. Maybe it's a higher parking fee. Maybe it's a higher room rate. Maybe it is higher prices in their food court if they get used a lot. There's so many different other areas for companies to make up the difference that we should not look at this that any more than a fee may get removed or reduced, but they will still look to make money on us for as consumers. That late fee, think of it this way. There's only two ways that you are getting a late fee. One is that you're getting a late fee because you just forgot. And I've definitely done that a few times and have taken the hit in my wallet. Or two, you're in a financial bind where you could not make the payment on time. And then thus, you obviously have a balance. They're already making money on you for the interest. Why wouldn't they just bump up your interest rate by 1 or 2 points? That can make them the difference of your late fee with no problem. So late fee going away or being reduced to $8 is great, but the credit card companies are not going to lose money. It's just not going to happen. So all that to say is that I don't really think there's winners and losers on this. There might be PR in regards to this. And there'll be companies and hotel entities that will maybe choose to get ahead of this so that they can paint the better picture that they were ahead of things rather than that the government forced them to do something. So I just viewed it as interesting. And I put a note on here as far as $5 increase on baggage fees. Now, four of them, Alaska, American, JetBlue, and United, had already done it. And just like a lot of industries, when one or two entities start making decisions of increasing prices, everybody falls in line because they've now opened the door and can do it. And so Delta just fell in line with $5. Take that whole thing about the family sitting together. Maybe you do adjust some of your numbers for that, but those families have baggage. who's to say that it's not these airlines trying to get ahead of the curve by raising the baggage fees by $5 to kind of recoup whatever they may feel they may be losing? I'm not saying that's exactly the reason that the baggage fees are being increased, but it's a very good example of how one fee, it's just like a shell game. This one may be gone, but this one returns. So I just wanted to get you pass that on to you all, and definitely would like to hear your thoughts and comments on the whole junk fee issue. Of one, is it does it sound like a good thing, and two, do you think it's going to make a difference? And so now we'll move to the what I would call the ultimate Marriott Bonvoy guide. As I mentioned, there are 6 credit cards, 3 with Chase, 3 all personal cards with Chase, and 3 cards with American Express, 2 personal, 1 business. 4 of them are at historic highs, and they are 2 of them are going to be coming into um, wrapping up real shortly. And there's a lot of things that you need to look at if you want to do this. And so I wanted to take some time in this live stream to kind of really kind of walk everybody through this, whether you are completely new to Marriott or if you are a seasoned veteran. I believe that you're going to see some things here that will hopefully make it easier for you to determine what's the best route for you, your situation. And so, and I don't take it lightly when I say ultimate. I think it's an overused word, but I'm hoping that the information I'm going to provide here will be comprehensive and provide you everything you need to know. So, and before we get to that, I just want to ask if you like the information that we're providing, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Like I said, it means everything to us, and it lets us know that we're really going in the right direction with what we're trying to do. And I always encourage comments to let us know what your thoughts are, anything that you'd like to see that would make your experience better. Because if you're not happy with the experience, then there's no reason for us to be here. So thank you so much. So let's take a look at the Marriott, and let's get to showing the screen. And I hope everybody can see this. I think I've got it big enough. So let's start with the membership tiers. There are 5 membership tiers with Marriott: Silver, Gold, Platinum, Titanium, and Ambassador. And so what I started with was putting each card into the tier that you automatically get by having the card. So the Chase Bonvoy Bold and the Chase Bonvoy Boundless puts you in the Silver Elite status, while the Marriott Bonvoy Bevy by American Express, the Chase Bountiful, the American Express Bonvoy Business fall in the Gold. And then the last one, and the highest priced one, the American Express Bonvoy Brilliant, puts you in Platinum. So that's the highest tier you can get to with just that one credit card. And so as we scroll down here, if you can bear with me a moment. So let's show it up here. So the nights required for each of these, 10 nights for the Silver, 25 for Gold, 50 for Platinum, 75 for Elite, and 100 for Ambassador Elite. You're going to get some increased point more, additional points that you get based upon each purchase, going from 10 to 25 to 50 to 75%. You're getting priority late checkout starting with Gold Elite. You're going to get member rates across all of them, and you're going to get complimentary Wi-Fi across all of them. I shouldn't have had X's, so I apologize for that. And then as far as enhanced room upgrades, you start getting that at Gold Elite. For the Gold and the Platinum, just kind of basic upgrades. Maybe it's a corner room, maybe it's something slightly bigger, or as far as the view of where it is. Titanium is where you're going to start potentially getting standard suites, potentially, and then Ambassador Elite up to including select suites. Now, those the difference of standard versus select suites, it varies depending upon the hotel, but that just at least gives you an idea of what you're looking at. You're going to get dedicated elite support beginning at the platinum status, where you're getting a 24-hour phone number to be able to call to assist you. You're going to get guaranteed lounge access starting at platinum elite. You're going to get a welcome gift starting at the gold elite with points. And then as you go into platinum and titanium and ambassador, you start getting some other options of breakfast, or an amenity for those. And then you actually can get automatic Hertz Gold Plus rewards starting with Platinum Elite, with a fast track to 5-star, then 5-star for Titanium, and then President's Circle for Ambassador Elite. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Some of the premium credit cards can get you this status of President's Circle, the Capital One, the American Express Platinum does. There are probably a few other ones, so it's not anything exclusive to the card. It's just an extra benefit. And then the last item on here that I've got down here is Your 24, and that is specific to Ambassador Elite, where you can basically request your own 24-hour check-in. So if you may want to check in at noon, and if they can accommodate you, then they will do that, and then you'll have a corresponding time of when you check out. So you won't be able to extend your stay by saying that I'm going to check in at 10 in the morning, but I still get out at 2 or 4 in the afternoon. It doesn't work that way. So they will adjust the checkout time to an approved check-in time. So that's kind of what the tiers are on this. So what I would probably basically look at, and I'm a person that has done a lot with Hilton, and so the Gold Elite status, you do get a pretty good amount of benefits that just come with having a card that is not an oppressive amount of money. It's something to consider to see where you fall at in what you would want in regards to dealing with Marriott. If you're a loyalist of how often you go there, what's the kind of status if you want, or if you just want to, if you're just starting to potentially look at Marriott, these tiers are something that you definitely want to know so that you know what you are looking at. Now, one thing I'll point out is as far as the elite nights that are required, the thing to keep in mind is every card on here, other than the Brilliant, will give you 15 elite nights as a credit. The Bonvoy Brilliant gives you 25 nights credit. So if you take the business card and the personal card of let's say you took the Bonvoy Brilliant, and let's say the Amex Marriott Bonvoy Business, that would give you 40 total nights, 25 from the Brilliant, 15 from the business. So that 40 is getting you very close to only being 35 points away from Titanium. So, or 35, not points, but nights. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for the elite, though truly elite status in Marriott. Now, I would say one thing to keep in mind is that even if you had multiple personal cards, you can only add the elite nights of one personal card and one business card. So it's not like you're going to be able to get 2 or 3 personal cards and a business card, and that'll rack you up enough elite nights to get to Titanium and Ambassador. So that is not something that's going to end up happening in that situation. So keep that in mind. But that is getting to 40 nights potentially, if you are looking for status, can be a very good thing. But definitely let me know your comments and thoughts in regards to what's your thoughts of status as it relates to Marriott. The next thing we'll take a look at is we'll take a look at the actual cards, what they offer, and touch on a few of those. So as I mentioned, there are 3 credit cards for the Chase, but I'm only going to reference 2. The Bold is the entry-level card. It has 30,000 points currently. There's nothing, it's nothing special as far as the point status, so I'm leaving that off. So we do have the Bonvoy Boundless and the Bonvoy Bountiful. $95 and $250. Now, any of these credit cards you'll see on this spreadsheet, you really need to have a 700 credit score or above to feel comfortable that you can get the card. It's not to say that you can't get it if you're at a 690 or a 680, but you're going to need a few things to work for you to get that card. And I've talked about this in other credit card entities of kind of what can tip the scales for you. And I mentioned it in the city one, that basically it could be that your income is just very strong, and that might get you some points, let's say, in consideration. The other thing is if you've already got a relationship with Chase, maybe you already have credit cards with them, maybe you have a checking account, maybe you have a mortgage or an auto loan. All of those things can play into the package of what Chase or any bank is going to look at as far as what they want to do as far as extending you credit. So while I say 700 points, that's basically if we're just looking at the credit score, what you want to be able to do. But if you're close and you have some other things working for you, definitely feel free to consider it. So we've got $95 and $250 for the annual fees. The Boundless is the one with the 5 free nights. Now that 5 free nights offer ends on March 20th. So we're getting there. You do have time. And that promo is basically 50,000, five certificates, free night certificates, valued at 50,000 points each. Based upon the points guy, who has the rate at 0.084 cents a point, that would make them worth essentially $2,100. Now, you could definitely do better, and you can definitely do worse. I did go and list that Bountiful because it was 85,000 points, but it's not something that is a new or temporary promotion. Then what we look at is we can scroll over to as far as the required spend. So we've got $5,000 for 3 months for the $95 card and $4,000 in 3 months for the $250 card. I give you the point multipliers at Marriott because, of course, anytime you have a hotel card, it's always going to be best to use it if you're going to be paying for the hotel or for activities at the hotel. That's really where you truly get the most points out of a hotel credit card. But they both do provide multipliers related to groceries, gas, groceries for both of them, 3x for the $95 one, 3x for the dining on the 95, 4x for the 250, nothing on flights and phone, wireless phone, and then 2x on everything else. Now, you do get a free night with the $95 card, a 35,000 point free night certificate at every anniversary year. Now, the $250 one, you don't get a free night. You can spend to get to the free night at 50,000, get a 50,000 point free night certificate, but you have to have $15,000 worth of spend. So just a few notes on those. You're getting baggage delay, lost luggage, trip delay, and purchase protection with both of them. And you're going to have a cap for the $95 one of $6,000 combined on the 3X. And then on the $250 card, you're going to get 4X categories can only go up to $15,000 combined. The 15 Elite Nights actually applies to both credit cards. So they're pretty similar. It's really more of what you're going to look for on the multipliers. And if you want to take advantage of that 5 free night certificates at 50,000 points each. So that is the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless and the Marriott Bonvoy Bountiful from Chase. Now we'll look at the American Express cards. And for those 3 cards, we've got the Marriott Bonvoy Bevy, the Bonvoy Business, and the Bonvoy Brilliant. Once again, 700 credit score is what you would ideally like to have. You're going to look at $250 for the Bevy, which is the same price as the Bountiful credit card for Chase at $250, $125 for the Bonvoy Business, and then the Brilliant is the one that gets you that platinum status. It is $600. The Bonvoy Bevy and the Brilliant have the historic points values that run till May 1st of 2024 at 155,000 points for the Bevy and 185,000 points for the Brilliant. The Bonvoy Business has the 5 free nights, just like we saw with the $95 Chase credit card. Same 5 free nights, 50,000 points each, ends March 20th of 2024. The first thing that you'll notice about the Bevy, the Business, and the Brilliant is their intro term period is actually 6 months, not 3 months, as Chase has. So if there's a concern about how much time you have to get that spend done, American Express is giving you double that amount of time. And so you're looking at $5,000 for the Bevy, $8,000 for the business card, which is common that your business cards are going to have a little higher intro spend to get that bonus, and then $6,000 on the Brilliant. As far as the multipliers, you see that on the business credit card that you're getting 4x on gas, dining, and the wireless phone, while the Bevy is providing you 4x on groceries, dining, and 2x on everything else. Both the Business and the Bevy are giving you 18.5 points per dollar when it comes to Marriott. The Brilliant goes to 21. And they are doing 3x on dining and flights to make it more of a travel card, as well as the 2x on everything else. You do get the 35,000 point free night certificate when you have the business card. If you have the Brilliant, it's 85,000 point free night certificate on each anniversary year. And then with the Bevy, you get a 50,000 point free night credit, but after you have $15,000 worth of spend. As far as a few other notes on these, you get 15 elite nights with the Bevy as well as the Business. You're getting 25 points when it comes to the Brilliant, as we discussed earlier. You're going to get extended warranty on these, and that's something more of an American Express thing. You'll see a lot of their cards provide extended warranty, so that's an additional benefit through American Express. You'll also get the purchase protection, the lost luggage, the trip delay. You're getting gold elite status on both of those cards. And then you do have a combined amount max on the 4X categories for the Bevy with a $15,000 cap. And then for the Brilliant, there's a lot of different things that they have to give you, obviously, if you're going to be paying that high of an amount for the Brilliant. And in typical American Express fashion, they throw credits at you. So you're going to get a $300 dining credit for the Brilliant at $25 per month. You're going to get a $100 Marriott Bonvoy property credit, but that is only at the Ritz-Carlton and St. Regis, which are their 2 highest priced brands. And you have to have a minimum 2-night stay. I don't know, unless you stay there often, that $100 will probably not be worth it to you when you start factoring in your calculations. You're going to get a Brilliant Earned Choice Award after $60,000 worth of spend. You're going to get a $100 credit for TSA PreCheck or Global Entry. As I mentioned, 25 elite nights. You're going to get Priority Pass. And then as far as the Platinum Elite status, but the same baggage delay, lost luggage, trip delay, purchase protection. So that is kind of what you're looking at with these 6 credit cards. And so that's why I would end up saying that there's some strategy to this that you have to look at. And so we've now looked at the tiers. We've seen what the multipliers are. And I'll kind of go back through real quick just so that you're able to see that of the Boundless at $95 and the Chase Bountiful at $250. But you're basically looking at the Boundless at $95 has the 5 free night certificates. And if you want to compare that, you'd be looking at the business card at $125 has those same 5 free night certificates. 6 months with American Express as far as your intro time period, 3 months with Chase. The 85,000 points, as I mentioned, with Chase for the Bountiful is not a temporary promo. The increased point values are both with American Express for the Bevy at 155,000 points and 185,000 points with the Bonvoy Brilliant at $650. When you're looking at these cards, I think what you can basically kind of determine is going from the highest to the lowest. The Bonvoy Brilliant is basically if you know that you are going to be staying at Marriott a lot, you're essentially a loyalist. For $650 fee or for a hotel credit card, you definitely better be doing it for business, or you travel a lot and know that there are Marriotts that you're going to be going to. The business card can be a sweet spot for some people. At $125, even with an $8,000 spend in 6 months, you're getting gas, you're getting dining, and you're getting the wireless phone. Something to consider. And you're also still getting that 35,000 point free night. The Bevy is kind of also a card where now you got a chance of groceries at 4X. Now, to keep in mind, I have a American Express Gold card that has 4X on groceries. The American Express value per point is much higher than the Marriott. So most of the time when you have hotel and airline credit cards, you would not normally use them for these other things, groceries, dining. You normally have a card that either has that same multiplier or has a value much higher because they're flexible points. So the American Express membership rewards, the Citi thank you points, the Chase member rewards, the Capital One points, all of those are kind of almost valued at almost 2 cents a point, or a little bit more in a couple of cases. Keep in mind, Marriott is valued at 0.84 cents by the points guy currently. So just because you have 4X on groceries, it's not the same as 4X on American Express. My thought would end up being is you might use these categories as far as reaching your spend for that 3 or 6 month period, but it's not something you're going to use as a daily driver. So I just want to make sure everybody was on the same page as far as these multipliers are not the same as with everything else. So, but definitely let me know if you have any questions or comments in regards to that. But that's the breakdown of the multipliers as it relates to each of these credit cards. Now, the one thing I do want to point out as we look at this is that when we're looking at certificates and we're looking at points. So let's start with the American Express application guidelines. You can have 2 applications every 90 days and with a maximum of 5 credit cards. Now, I'm stressing that it's credit cards. That doesn't apply to the charge cards of the Platinum, the Gold, and the Green cards. So, but you are limited to 5. And that seems to be a pretty hard 5. I'm at my 5 credit card limit currently myself. So if you have 5 credit cards with American Express and want to take advantage of the Marriott, you're most likely going to have to drop one of your credit cards to be able to get it. So keep that in mind. 2 applications in 90 days could be helpful if you're going to try to do a double hit on these credit cards with American Express. So it's something to keep in mind. Now, as far as Chase, you obviously have the 524 issue, which we all know about. 5 personal credit cards within a 24-month period is the maximum that you can get. Now, there seems to be some softness in that in some cases with credit cards that they may be promoting. So it may not be completely hard and fast, but it's definitely something you want to kind of factor in. Now, I do want to take a quick look and make sure we're all on the same page of points versus the certificates. The certificates are 5 nights, 50,000 max a piece. So you might say it's worth 250,000 points. That's more than the 155,000 points for the Amex Bonvoy Bevy. And you say it's even more than the most expensive card, the Brilliant, at 185,000 points. You are correct. It can be, but it isn't for sure. But you definitely need to be aware of the restrictions that come with that certificate, whether it is for the Chase credit card or for the American Express business card. The certificate restrictions are, it is only valid for 1 year. You cannot extend it. There used to be a time when people would get these certificates and based upon their status and such, they could get it extended. It is quite a hard know at this point for it. So you definitely have to have a plan of where you plan on using those hotel nights at. You only have a year to get it done, and the time can fly by. So I would strongly suggest that if you're going to get one of those cards that have the 5 free night certificates, either have in mind where you know you want to go, or at least that you've narrowed it down to a few to consider. Because there's going to be a few things you're going to have to look at. You're going to have to look at, does the 50,000 points get me the room that I want at the time that I want to go? Keep in mind, Marriott is dynamically priced, so that point level constantly changes from one day to the next. So what might be 50,000 points in the second week of September is triple that amount depending upon a holiday or a season. So you definitely want to just do some homework first before you do that. Heaven forbid you don't want to have to get to the 1 year mark and realize that you never got to use those certificates and you just wasted them. The second, as I mentioned, it cannot be extended, so that's not going to be an option. Now, I would say that as far as the expiration date, if your expiration date is, say, December 31st of 2024, you can check in on that date and still use the free night certificate. So just a one note to keep in mind. You cannot transfer those certificates to anyone. If they're issued to you on your credit card, that is it. It's just going to be that. The other part is you cannot exchange it for points. You may determine I'm not going to be able to use them. I want to exchange it for points. That's not an option. You can top off those 50,000 certificates with with a maximum of 15,000 Marriott Bonvoy points, so that it can get you to that 65,000 point threshold, potentially for the hotel that you may want to be staying in. So that is an option. And if you, because Chase and American Express are transfer partners, if you needed to top off, that's okay. It's not the best use of those points. I just want to make sure that you did know that they are obviously they are available, but hopefully you won't have to do that. But as long as you know that it's not the best use of the points, if you're going to use them, it's okay because you're making an informed decision. And then there's a program with Marriott where you stay for 5, but you pay for 4. That does not apply to the certificates. It only applies to the points with Marriott Bonvoy. So you don't get to use 4 of the certificates and get a 5th night free. Please keep that in mind. And then the last part is actually on those resort fees we touched on a little bit earlier. Resort fees are still due whether you're paying with points or certificates. Hyatt and Hilton waive those resort fees at hotels when you use points, but not Marriott. So while it may be free per night, you are still going to need to pay for resort fees if applicable for where you're staying at. So those are the main things I say to keep in mind if you're looking at certificates. They can be an outstanding use of an intro bonus, but you definitely got to make sure that you've got a plan for it so that you don't end up losing them or wasting them. So definitely let me know if you've got any questions or comments in regards to that, and definitely will be more than happy to help with that as well. Now on this page, I'm actually only going to take a little bit of time on this. I don't want to get everybody too far into the weeds with things. One of the things that has made things more complicated as far as what card to get and how does it work is because American Express is what has been instituting, what I've mentioned on my last live stream and a couple of times, is essentially Amex family drama language. And basically what they've done is they've applied language to almost all of their personal credit cards. In fact, I think it is all of their personal credit cards, and including the business card as it relates to Marriott, of where they want you to basically follow an order to make sure as far as how you're getting bonus points. So let's say, for example, if you, and I'll take the charge cards for a moment. So the green card is kind of the starting card, the gold is middle, the platinum is the top. When I applied for credit cards with American Express, I got the platinum first, and then I got the gold, and I haven't gotten the green card. Well, I won't be getting it now. because now the language says that if you've gotten the platinum card and got the bonus, you cannot get the bonus on the gold and the green cards. So they want you to go in order of lowest to highest. And they are doing the same thing when it comes to the Marriott language. So if you have the bevy, if you are looking to apply and you get the brilliant first, then you cannot get the bevy later. You have to get, and because obviously with American Express, we're dealing with once in a lifetime language. So it's not like a lot of credit cards where maybe you only have to wait 24 months or 48 months. You only get one shot at it. So that is something that kind of has made that more complicated as far as what to get. The other thing that has made it more complicated, especially on these Marriott cards, is because of two things. One, they are going to include the Chase credit cards as restrictions of what you can and cannot do in addition to the American Express credit cards for Marriott. But then the Marriott Bonvoy program, which you might have seen on the poll that I put out in the quiz, is that Bonvoy only became its consolidated title in 2019. They had Starwood, they had the Ritz-Carlton rewards. So it's gone through a lot of different names. And American Express has done their very best to try to catch all of those cards to basically put even more restrictions on what you can and cannot be able to get the welcome bonuses. So let me just show this briefly. So when it comes to the American Express Bonvoy Brilliant, you're ineligible for the welcome offer if you've already had this card or you've had the Bonvoy Brilliant, which is the higher price card, which I mentioned earlier. That's very easy. We know that's the normal policy for American Express now under this family drama language, as I mentioned. But then look at all of these cards that if you've had these cards, if you either available, if you've gotten them or have had them in the last 30 days, all of these cards can end up making sure that the welcome offer is not available to you. Now, almost all of these cards are not even in existence anymore, or you cannot apply for them anyway directly. The Ritz-Carlton card is a little bit of a different animal because you can get the Ritz-Carlton not through application. You can do it via upgrade with Chase. So if you go to Chase and have a Marriott Bonvoy card, you can be able to product change out of that one into the Ritz-Carlton. And the Ritz-Carlton has a lot of very good benefits with that credit card that a lot of people are basically get the Marriott card to be able to switch into. So that can be something that would apply to some of you all if you did that type of thing of getting another Marriott card and product change into the Ritz-Carlton. But those cards, if you've had them in the last 30 days, you can't get the welcome offer. And then the next section is welcome offer is not available to applicants who have acquired the following cards in the last 90 days. And now we're looking at the Chase credit cards that are current right now. So the Boundless and the Bold for the bevy, if you've had those in the last 90 days, you can't get the welcome bonus. And then if you've gotten the bonus in the last 24 months with the Bountiful, Boundless, or Bold, you can't get it. So that is about the same policy with all of the American Express credit cards. And so, like I said, I don't want to get you too much into the weeds with a lot of cards that won't even apply to anything that you're doing. So I do want to make sure to make a note of that. But I did want to show you why it is more complicated than a normal situation where we all say, let's go after the points. And that's the reason, is that we've got to deal with language that is putting restrictions on us with American Express on just their cards. And now we've got the restrictions when it comes to Chase cards that have that. So that's just to kind of show you, like I said, not to get you in the weeds. This language essentially is on most of these cards. I'm sorry, the language is on all of them. The cards vary though. But that's an example of what the bevy has. And then if you look at the Bonvoy Brilliant, because it's the top card, then you can't get this, you can't get the bonus for the Brilliant if you've already had the Brilliant or this Starwood Preferred Guest Amex. I don't even know how long ago that card was, but it was an Amex card, and that's why they are holding you to the same restriction as if it was the Brilliant. I believe it was the previous version of the Brilliant, and you still can't get it with that. And when it comes to the Chase cards, they're focusing on the highest ones, the Ritz-Carlton Rewards. Same cards when it comes to within the last 90 days, or if you've had the welcome bonuses in the last 24 months, they're trying to catch those current Chase cards. So that's what you're seeing on the Brilliant. And then when it comes to the business card, they are focusing on business cards that you may have had in the past. So the Marriott Bonvoy Premier Plus business credit card, the Bonvoy Rewards business. Once again, these are cards that really aren't necessarily even available right now. In fact, I know they're not. And I believe they're all Amex cards. So once again, they're trying to get you on, well, let me take that back actually. The Starwood Preferred is the previous version of the business card, but now they're catching all of the Chase cards that were mixed in with it as far as in the last 30 days. And then once again, the same 6 credit cards in the 90 days and the 24 months. Chase has very similar language for them. They have where basically if that this is not available to you if you've already had this card. So like for this one, the Bonvoy Bold, which is their lowest card, if you had the card before or any of those other cards, you cannot get it if you've had it within the last 24 months. So Chase does not do a lifetime, once in a lifetime. They basically kind of go off of a 24-month model. So just wanted to kind of give a quick look at those just to give you an idea of what you're dealing with. But let me kind of get you to the next step in regards to this of what your options are. So the options, if you've never had a Marriott credit card, that's obviously your best situation. So for that one, you want to start with Amex, and you pretty much want to start with Amex no matter what. And here's the reason why. By getting Amex, and if you go in a certain order, you could get another credit card 2 or 3 times within, you can get the 2 credit cards in the 90 days if you wanted to. So you could potentially take advantage of the Marriott Bonvoy business credit card with the 5 free nights, $50,000 certificates if you got it first. And then, because that one ends soon, and then you could go to the bevy for the 155,000 points, which I believe is in May, and then apply for the bevy if you wanted to. And then you could get both 2 of the most historic point values with Marriott, both from Amex. You won't necessarily be able to do that if you start with Chase. And on top of that, you got to be concerned about 524 with Chase. Now, if you are concerned about 524, and maybe you don't need more than 1 credit card, and maybe you're not truly hunting for the points, and maybe it's a concern of how much spend, the business card is probably the most ideal card to start with. Now, that might give some concern to some people because of the fact that it's a business. But let me point out a couple things just to keep in mind. The business credit cards do not apply to Chase 524. It's only for the personal credit cards. It does not show up on your personal credit card report. And so you don't have to worry about 524 when it's a business credit card. The second part that you have to keep in mind is that maybe you're saying to yourself, and I can understand it because I've been there myself, is I don't have a business. I don't do a business. I work a 9 to 5. So do I. But the thing that you can do is maybe you have a thought that you want to write the next best novel. Maybe you want to develop a great cookbook. Maybe you plan on selling items you've knitted on Etsy. Or maybe you are a Uber driver. All of those things are entrepreneurship. So you can go to Amex and be able to apply for the Marriott Bonvoy business and basically apply as a business. You don't have to have an LLC. You don't have to spend that money for it. What they're going to ask you is they're going to ask you what your business is in. So whether it's writing, maybe it's vlogging, or you're an Uber driver, like I said, all of those are fine. Then they're going to ask you, how much money do you intend to make? And how much do you tend to spend on the card, most likely? There are fair answers to give on all that. You don't have to have earnings to apply for a credit card, for a business credit card. I've done it multiple times when I didn't have any profit in a business, didn't have an LLC, used my social security number. Now, what you do need to be able to have, though, is you're going to have a good credit score to be able to do it, because it's still based upon you, your credit value on it. But if you've got good credit, in the 700s, I'll say, that's a possibility for you. So it's something worth considering. And so you could start with the Bonvoy business, move to the Bonvoy Bevy, and then move to the Bonvoy Brilliant if you wanted to. But then what you'd have to do is you'd have to give a 24-month duration before you apply for the Chase credit cards, because they have the language that says if you've gotten a bonus from an Amex Marriott card, you cannot get it on a Chase credit card for 24 months. So that is something to keep in mind. So my recommendation when people would look at this, it's not to say that you're going to do points hunting on Marriott. I've never gotten more than one hotel credit card. I don't hunt for points necessarily for hotels. Now, I must admit, I am thinking about it when it comes to these certificates and these 155 or 185,000 points, that I am strongly considering getting a Bonvoy business and a Bonvoy Bevy, because of how much that is. That can get you 2 or more vacations just for your spend. But once again, evaluate what's going to be best for you in regards to these credit cards. But if you were hunting, let's say, so you do the 3 Amexes, you would then go to the skip the 24 months, and then you can get one of the 3 Chase credit cards, the Bold, the Boundless, or the Bountiful, and then you have to wait another 24 months. So my recommendation is that if you're going to look at this, look at American Express first. Once again, if you don't want to get the business, no big deal. The Bevy has a beautiful intro of 155,000 points. That's a great one to be able to do. And even if you did want to go in and get the Brilliant, you could. But start there. Don't lock yourself out for that 24-month period. The other thing to keep in mind is 2 things. One, American Express is normally better about approvals. If you feel like you might be kind of tiptoeing on the line of where you could get approved, Amex is going to probably be a better shot than Chase. And the second part is, if you have any American Express credit cards, it is a soft pull for this card or any card that you have. Once you have a relationship with American Express, there are no more hard pulls. And I think most of you all know, but I'll say it briefly. A hard pull is basically where they are actually creating a hard inquiry looking at your credit scores. They don't do that once you have even just one American Express credit card. They just end up doing soft pulls as if you were going into Credit Karma yourself and just getting a snapshot of what your credit score is. So there is no hard inquiry. So those are the things that I say you need to look at. Kind of one, make sure that if you're going after one of the ones with certificates, that it is something that's going to fit you. 2 is to be aware of that language of how it can impact the American Express cards of going in order of business or Bevy before Brilliant. And then also factor in the language of Chase, where it is saying that if you had American Express and got the points, you've got to wait 24 months. That's why I'm saying that you really, in almost all cases, want to start with American Express, whether it's one card or two or even three cards, which probably is not likely, not really reason to get that many cards. So I hope that kind of helps with the whole Marriott Bonvoy, from the tiers to the multipliers that are on the cards, to just a snapshot of what all of those credit card things you have to look at, and then kind of just boil down to what we see here of focusing on the American Express cards first and keeping an eye on the certificates. So I hope all of that helps, and I appreciate being able to look at the live stream. Definitely check out the last couple of videos that we've had on Citi, as well as the credit card ladder, and we'll have our new one out on Saturday morning. And with no questions, thank you so much, and you all have a great evening.